elevate the mysteries of the paranormal with us as we explore the unexplained, unravel secrets, journey into realms that defy logic. Join our community of truth seekers, skeptics, and believers as we unravel the mysteries that lie just beyond the veil of our reality. Strap in, because things are about to get spooky.
Hello, and welcome back to the brand spanking new Hierophant Paranormal. And that is, in fact, how you pronounce it. I've noticed a lot of people have difficulty pronouncing it. It is pronounced Hierophant. There you go. Anyway, today I thought we would discuss some of the more concerning things that I have seen on various investigations. I watch a lot of YouTube stuff. I used to watch the TV stuff, but I watch a lot of the YouTube stuff, or at least I did. And I have taken note over the years of some of the stuff in the investigations that was a little concerning, to say the least. So I thought we would go ahead and discuss this, and I will give you a heads up, there's probably going to be more videos like this. If there's stuff that you have seen in investigations that you found to be concerning and you want to let me know and maybe we can cover it in a future video, go ahead and leave it down in the comments below or at one of the socials that is connected to my description, and we can go from there. I can always go ahead and make another list. There could be a series. There's so much concerning stuff, but right now I have 5. I do have notes. So I have about 5 that I want to talk about this time, and in the future, like I said, we can do another video. So let's go ahead and get into this. So the first thing that concerns me is the placement of the cameras in private homes, and it's usually security cameras that we're talking about here. So you're going to get your CCTV and stuff like that from those particular cameras, and there's a lot of them. There is a lot of them. And a lot of times you will find yourself, I'm sure I'm not alone in this, you will probably look at some of these things and you're thinking to yourself, why is the security camera there? I have seen some videos that have come through on with the cameras placed in positions that it made perfect sense. Made total sense. You could see doors, you could see windows, main entrance, back entrance, whatever. But what I'm wondering about is cameras in the bedrooms. Let's keep our minds out of the gutter here, but what exactly are we recording on bedroom cameras? I also want to remind people, if you do have cameras inside your house, and I'm probably going to sound like some kind of paranoid ninny, but most of those cameras do tend to be online. And just remember that a lot of times they can be really easily hacked. If you don't believe me, go ahead and do a search on YouTube. You're already here. Go and look some of those up. They're terrifying, which is why I don't understand why people put security cameras that can be accessed on the internet in their bedrooms facing directly at their beds. These are security cameras. Okay, now, like I said, mind out of the gutter. Okay. If you have security cameras in your home, I would assume that they would be on the first floor, and they would probably highlight the front and the back of the house, where there are entrances. Low points in the house, if you've got windows that are very close to the ground, if you've got a back door, if you've got a front door, if you've got a garage, whatever the case may be, those are the areas that you would want to record. I could even somewhat understand it if your bedroom window is fairly close to the ground. But they're never pointed in those directions. They're always pointed at the bed. Now, I know, adults, people do weird things. I am well aware. I'm trying not to think about that. But why would you have them on all the time? Just when you're sleeping? Why? It doesn't make sense to me. But I've also seen some other ones. There's a video I had discussed at some point early on before I revamped the channel, where it's this little girl that goes into the kitchen and she's caught on what everybody keeps saying is a security camera. And she seems to be having some kind of an argument with something that we can't see. Okay, and this video has been around. You probably have seen it yourself. It's been around a bit. And my biggest question with that was always, what are they filming? Okay, if you look at it, it appears to be on a table, like a kitchen table or something, and it's filming. I don't see any like front door or back door access. It looks like it's like right across from the refrigerator, and it's looking into the living room, and it's not really filming anything of particular interest. Like there's nothing super valuable there. There's no entrance. I can't even see any windows. What were they filming there? So that makes me question what's really happening in this video. Okay, so this next one that I want to talk about is probably going to start an argument somewhere. Somebody's going to come for me, I'm sure, and it'll probably be one of the locations. But my question is, what's the deal with the locations that are charging an arm and a leg? Now, let me explain why I question this, okay? You have a lot of locations that a lot of your, especially larger YouTubers, will go to after a TV show like Ghost Adventures has been there, okay? I don't know if you have looked at the prices for some of these. Some of them are astronomically priced. And I'm not talking like, $100 here or there. I'm talking like hundreds of dollars for like a couple of hours of access to the area. And I keep getting people arguing with me. Every time I've ever brought this up, people argue with me. It's like, oh, well, they charge that kind of money to keep the locations up. No, they are not. No, they're not. It depends on the location. Because I have seen some locations, like I did a price out for the USS North Carolina, and I want to say they were just under $800. I don't remember exactly what he quoted me because it's been a while. So at the time that I did, which I believe was over a year ago, they quoted me just under $800. Okay. That I understand because there is a lot that goes into keeping an old World War II battleship from sinking. Okay, just keeping it running, keeping it safe so that people do tours, things of that nature. And there's a lot that goes into that. And I'm sure they've got some kind of fees that they have to pay to the state or the city or the county or something, or all three, to keep the ship there. Okay. Plus, like I said, all the maintenance and things like that, there's got to be all kinds of insurance. If you've never been on a battleship, you got to watch your step. And I'm sure people fall. They may sue, things like that. So a lot of that money is going into that. And there are a lot of historic locations. A lot of locations in Gettysburg, for instance, are going to have upkeep fees. They're going to have rental fees. They're going to have repairs that they have to do. These are very, very old buildings. It's a very, very, very old ships, things like that. And I completely understand that. But at other aspects, I have seen some of these locations where they say, oh, well, it's for the upkeep. And the buildings are very obviously bordering on being unsafe to be in. Like nobody's doing any kind of maintenance. Nobody's taking care of this building. They are pretty much just getting what they can get out of it before the building is condemned. So what's going on there? So the issue that you've got here is that they do in fact have a dog in the fight, and there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, it's a business. But we as viewers of paranormal investigations and those of us doing paranormal investigations need to take into consideration the fact that these places do in fact have some kind of desire for money. Okay, it is a business. They are running a business. They are running it as a business. How much of the stories that they're telling you are true? How many of the experiences that you're having inside are real? It's not that hard if you have a static location that people are coming into and it's closed to the public or to investigators for long stretches of time, like several hours during the day when most people aren't investigating, that they can set all this stuff up and make sure that things happen. They're going to know secret entrance ways. They're going to know ways in and out of rooms. They're going to know how to get around places so that the investigators don't know. The investigators who are doing the investigations, they may well think that they're getting evidence. They may think that they are having the most active night of their lives. And in reality, they're not. Now, I'm not saying that every location is doing this. I'm not saying any location is doing this, really. But it's something that you have to take into consideration when you're watching these places, especially if they've been on Ghost Adventures. Soon as Ghost Adventures comes through, they know they are going to have people lining up because Ghost Adventures had an experience, and now all these people want to have an experience. So if they can get larger channels to come in and also have experiences, that's going to bring more and more people in, even if it's people who don't have YouTube channels. Even if it's people who aren't going to record at all, they may just want to pay the money and come in and see if they can see a ghost or have some kind of a paranormal experience. But the more YouTube channels, big YouTube channels that they can get coming in and having experiences, the more people are going to see that and the more people who are going to want to come in. Have you ever noticed that a lot of the channels tend to dogpile a location? Think about this. The USS North Carolina was a big one for a while. I just mentioned that one as well. All of a sudden, I don't know why, everybody was releasing investigations from the USS North Carolina. What's happening? We've seen dog piles on places like the Sally House. We've seen dog piles on 30 East Drive. We've seen all kinds of dog piles where it's like you might see one or two channels do it, and then like a year later, there's like 15 channels within a 2-week period have videos out on the same location. What's happening? I don't know if it's some huge YouTuber. I don't know if it's a TV show or whatever it is, but something's causing these enormous dog piles. And all these people that are going in are having astronomical amounts of evidence. In most cases, more evidence than the typical paranormal investigator would get in an entire lifetime. They're getting in a single night, in a single location that they're only investigating once. It's definitely something to consider. Like I said, I'm not accusing anybody of doing this. I don't have any particular location in mind. The locations that I named are just the first ones that popped into my head. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. Not saying these places are fake. I'm not saying they're real either. But it's definitely something that you have to keep in the back of your mind, especially if every single channel you see doing them is having buttloads of evidence come out of it. It's a consideration. That's not technically or typically how the paranormal works. Like I said, these people are getting so much stuff in one night. It's more than most paranormal investigators get in an entire lifetime. Piggybacking off of that, I want to discuss the pre-investigation tours. There are several channels who will do 2 videos on a location, and they will show you the tour that they were given prior to going in, and then the next video will actually be their investigation of the place. I'm torn on those. I'm very, very torn on them because on one side, you can get a lot of information. You know what you're walking into. Okay, you know what to expect. Is there a child spirit? Is it a couple? Is it, is it a single person? Is it a bunch of different things? So you're getting some kind of background on it. But at the same time, everything that you do inside is being tainted by the information that you got prior to going in. So you're expecting to hear from this particular spirit, or you're expecting to run into 5 particular spirits. Now, everything that you hear that comes out of your spirit boxes or your apps or whatever, you are finding some way to tie that in to the story that you were just told prior to going in. Now, there have been several locations that have actually been called out for making up the stories. The stories have been just a load. And you don't particularly know that. So, do you investigate yourself before you go? Do you wait until you get back to do the investigation? What I always like to do, and this is just me, I usually turn down the pre-investigation tours, and then I would talk to them after the investigation, or I would do my research after the investigation. I used to do things like research, like the location. There was one, I'll just use the Devil's Tramping Ground. I had done the Devil's Tramping Ground several years ago now. And I did enough research to find out where the location was and what to expect of the location. And I did know what the lore was. However, I live in the same state. The lore is pretty well known around here. It's not like you're just going to walk away and go there and not know what the lore is if you live in the state and if you're into this sort of thing. Okay? So I already knew the lore, unfortunately, going in. But I did more research and I learned more stuff about it after the fact. And I kind of went into my investigation slightly cold. There were certain things I was looking for, like was there things growing in the circle? There was. Was there any kind of sign of things having been thrown out? There wasn't. I didn't have the same experience that I was being told I was going to get at the Devil's Tramping Ground. Like nothing could stay there, nothing could grow there, nothing living ever went in there. I proved all of that wrong within like the first 5 minutes I was there. But knowing that information, I was able to look for that stuff. However, if I go into a location with all these different spirits and I get this, 2-hour long storytelling event from the owner of the location, is that influencing your investigation? The things that you hear coming through EVPs, the things that you hear coming through your spirit boxes or your apps or whatever it is that you're using, is that influencing what you're hearing? Are you taking what, especially with the apps, are you taking what you're hearing coming out of those apps and trying to make it match to the story? And unfortunately, that seems to be a common thing. And I'm not saying that this is being done on purpose. I think this is something that can be done by a lot of people subconsciously, where they know the story and they want to have this stuff match up and they try to find a way to make what they're hearing match up to the stories that they were told. It makes it just a little bit shady. Is it a sign of fakery? Not necessarily. Like I said, I think a lot of times it's a subconscious thing. I think they hear these words and they say, oh, this lines up perfectly with this, and this lines up, and oh my God, I can't believe this. This is definitely evidence of the paranormal, when in fact it may not be. It may have just been a coincidence. It may have just been complete horse manure. There is a lot of debate on all of the equipment, not just the apps. There is a lot of debate on whether any of the equipment works. So, unfortunately, having that pre-told story when you're going in kind of makes it like, can I use that as evidence, or have I just influenced myself and my whole community? Okay, so this is another one that a lot of people have strong opinions on, and it is asking the spirits at a location if they know that they are dead, or if they know how they died. I've done it. I think we've all done it. I kind of got more conscious of it, and I haven't been doing it lately. Let me explain why. If you follow my TikTok channel, I may have put it in one of the videos here, whether it's still live or not, I don't know. But I had just a thought one time when I was watching videos. What if the ghosts that are at particular locations don't know that they're ghosts? What if they think we're the ghosts? You figure, why are they hanging out at these locations where it's like houses or things like that? Why are they there? And again, it depends on your belief system about how the paranormal works as to why a spirit would remain at a location. But if they're hanging out like a family home, or a favorite vacation spot or something like that, why are they there? Do they know that they're dead? And if they don't, you just told them. What would your reaction be? You're going through life, just doing your thing. You're in your house. You're doing the same kind of things that you do on a regular basis. You're watching TV. You're getting coffee and things like that. And all of a sudden, one day, a strange person walks into your house, and they've got all this equipment, and they're walking around, and you're yelling at them, and you're saying all this stuff to them, and they don't seem to be reacting, and they don't seem to notice that you're there. And then all of a sudden, one of them says, "Hey, do you know that you're dead?" Think about that on a deep, deep level. How do you think you would react to that? Do you think you would be like, "Oh, cool, I'm a ghost," or do you think you would freak the F out? Because I think most people would freak out. I don't think most would be like, "Sweet." No. So that's something else to consider. Every once in a while, it just sort of slips out, where you're in there and you're like, "Hey, do you know you're dead?" Or, "Hey, how did you die?" Like, if they don't know that they're dead, they don't know how they died. Okay, so that's something to take into consideration. But if you're doing an investigation and you're out there and you're coming out, pre-plan your questions before you go, and try to remove the "do you know that you're dead" or "how did you die" question. Just because if they don't know they're dead, you're asking, "Do you know that you're dead?" If the answer is yes, then it's fine. No harm, no foul. But if they don't know that they're dead, wow, you just ruined their day. Understatement of the century. Now, this next one I'm going to do an entire video on, and it's the differentiation between a residual haunting and an intelligent haunting. And I don't think a lot of people know the difference, which is why I want to do a video on it. And I have heard people use the term while they're doing an investigation. They'll talk about, X thing happened in this house at this time on this date. And then they say, well, there's a good possibility that we'll get a residual haunting. Correct. There is a possibility that you would get a residual haunting. A residual haunting would happen if there was a lot of high energy, high emotion, things like that, and it imprints on the area. But then they follow it up with, maybe we can communicate with them. If it's a residual haunting, you're not going to communicate with them. You can't. It's a residual. It's energy that was left behind and imprinted on the area, and it just replays over and over again. What you're looking for communication with a spirit would be an intelligent haunting. It would be the actual spirit of a deceased person who is hanging out in a location that you can communicate with, you can ask questions to, that may see you, may be able to interact with you, may be able to interact with its surroundings, none of which has been proven. But they may be able to do all of this. So what's the difference? The difference is that spirit can leave. The residual haunting cannot. And it's not technically a haunting. You're not dealing with ghosts. You're dealing with an energy impression. And again, I don't want to get too in depth with that. But it is definitely, it's something, again, it's not a sign of fakery or anything like that. It's just a sign that maybe a little bit more research needs to be done when people go into a place and expect to communicate with a residual haunting. You're not going to. So before you start investigating, make sure that you do a little bit of homework and learn the difference between some of the stuff. What is this? Why does this happen? What is the belief system behind it? Et cetera, et cetera. That will form a better understanding. For example, when people go to Gettysburg and they get clips of spirits or they see things, there's a lot of people have reported sightings of spirits in Gettysburg. They'll see soldiers marching through the battlefield. They will see, one of my favorites, there was a hospital, a battlefield hospital, that is actually on the battlefield itself in Gettysburg. And on the second floor, there is a window that stays open all the time. Apparently, the people who work there have attempted to close the window on a regular basis. Every time they go back in, the window has been reopened. Warning, this is graphic. Okay. What they used to do there was they would bring the soldiers who had been shot to this particular battlefield hospital. They would take them up. If you were unaware of this, back in Civil War times, if you got shot in a limb, there wasn't much they could do. They just sawed off your limb. So what they would do is they would have these guys come up. They would have a wound in their leg or their arm. The doctor would come in, literally would saw off the limb and throw it out that particular window. This is one of my favorite stories. We did a horseback tour of the battlefield. I think I was a teenager. And the woman who did the tour, Diane, she actually told us this story. And that was one of the stories. I don't know why that one stuck with me so much, but it did. And when we went past that building, the window, sure enough, was open. But that would be considered a residual haunting. Okay. Is there some aspect of intelligent? I don't know. The fact that the window keeps opening back up, even though it's been closed, I'm not sure. But what was happening in that hospital is continuing to happen via energy. It's an energy output. There was high emotion. They didn't have any kind of anesthetic back then. So keep that in mind. When they sawed off your limbs, they basically gave you something to bite down on. So a lot of emotion, a lot of pain, just excruciating quantities of pain and horror. And if anything was going to imprint and cause a residual haunting, it would be something like that. Okay. So before you go out onto your investigations, especially if you're starting, but even if you've been doing this for a while, try to figure out what it is that you're looking for. Are you looking for an intelligent haunting? Most people are. Or are you looking for a residual haunting? Like a lot of the stuff that you would see in Gettysburg. And know the difference. If you're watching soldiers marching across the battlefield in Gettysburg, you're not going to communicate with them. They don't know you're there. They don't see you. They're most likely an energy imprint on the area due to high emotion. You are not going to communicate with them. You are not going to get their attention. Just take it in. Just take that moment in and make it yours. It's your personal moment with that energy. But no, you're not going to communicate with them. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you for this one. If you like this, please do like, comment, and subscribe. And again, if you have other things that you find concerning on people's investigations, or you have witnessed on your own investigations, go ahead and leave them down in the comments. I would love to make another video out of this. I'm probably going to come up with some of my own. This is only the beginning of a list. So if I get enough, I will go ahead and make another video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Go down in my description. You can find all of my socials. I do try to respond as best I can. And I do thank you for spending your time with me this evening. Have a spooky one, guys. Bye.